Hey, mamas. I'm Lacey, your lactation counselor, and you're listening to the Early Motherhood Guide podcast, where motherhood is simply supported. Today, I have the opportunity to talk with Marianne St Clair. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am Marianne St Clair. I am a muse, first and foremost, and I'm also a mentor and master coach. And I work with women and men to spark their creativity, come into their body, and really love life, creating an orgasmic life.
Nice. So, um, a lot of women that you work with have reached burnout, right? So, why are so many women reaching burnout these days?
First and foremost, we've abandoned our bodies. We've been taught from the time we are born that, we should be up in our head. We should be thinking. We should be doing for everybody else. We should be pleasers, people pleasers. We should, from the time we're little babies and in our mom's arms, it's all about stopping crying because that's what they want, you know, not, um, not rocking the boat. So we've abandoned our bodies. We live up in our heads and we're giving to everybody else, and we're not refueling our own bodies and our soul.
Yeah.
We tend to, I did it. You want to hear a little bit about what I did?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, back at 14 years, well, I spent from the time I was 6 years old, I spent being a caregiver for everybody else. And Marianne was the last on the list. And I went from being taking care of my older brother and sister to being a wife who took care of my home. Then I also had a daughter who became very ill after she was 14 years old. And so I became a caregiver in the medical system and dealing with her health. And so everything was about everyone else, and it wasn't about me. There was just times when I would eke in, what about me? But for the most part, that's a question that I began to ask myself a lot. Was, if this is all life is, why am I doing it? Why am I even here? What about me? When is it Marianne's time? When is it going to be time that I feel joy, happiness, and feel excitement and feel alive? Because I was dead before I was dead.
Hmm.
And that's what burnout really feels like. If you've gotten to the point of full burnout, you feel like you're very close to your spark is about gone and you feel about dead.
Yeah, and that's so hard because when they're little, like, it is so consuming and it's so hard to step away. But then when you reach the point where they're teenagers, you get a little bit more freedom, right? And at that point, it sucks you right back in. Like, that would be really hard. How did that feel when you felt like you had a touch of freedom and all of a sudden you're right back into being such a caretaker?
But the key there is, did you really? Did you really feel like you had a touch of freedom?
Yeah.
Because for the most part, you'll, if that's the pattern that you're in society has taught you to be as a woman and as a new mom, you fill it with something else. The kids may go off to school, but then you're taking and you're committing your time to the PTA, or you're committing your time to the Girl Scout troop, or you're committing your time to, if you're a stay-at-home mom, then you're committing your time to caregiving or taking care and people pleasing some way or another. It isn't just about, oh my gosh, I can't wait till the kids go to school and then I have a sense of freedom. Because you'll fill it. You will fill it until you change the pattern. And we've been taught that it's selfish to change the pattern. And truly, it's not selfish. It's self-preserving.
Yeah.
It's a way that a mindset shift has to happen, that you hear a lot, Lacey, that, like getting on the plane, you put your oxygen mask on yourself first, and then, you you can take care of everybody else. But really it goes much deeper than that. It's not about putting the oxygen mask on so that you can take care of everybody else. You really have to shift your whole way of being, that you don't feel guilt, shame, or you feel like you're letting everybody down, because truly you need to take care of you first before you can take care of all those others. And they don't want you to get to the point of burnout, because then your whole world is affected.
Yeah. Do you have any good tips on how to break that pattern? Do you have like a couple steps on how to recognize the pattern and how to break that pattern?
Yeah, first and foremost, if you tell yourself, if you're saying yes to everybody else, then you're saying no to yourself.
Mhm.
So if you're saying, if all of a sudden somebody comes up and they say, can you pick my kids up from school? And you immediately say yes, then what is it keeping you from doing that? So you need to pause, create a pause before you ever answer yes or no to anybody overdoing something. You need to really pause and go, okay, what is this going to, what ripple effect is it going to cause? And when you can set yourself boundaries like that, to where you are being more respectful to yourself of your own time, and you're, choosing what lights you up first, instead of what would please everybody else, please friends, please your in-laws, please, your kids, because we want to make sure our kids get pleased.
Yeah.
That's, a people pleaser, our kids. And then the other tip, one more tip is, and I hope I didn't just lose it, is when you definitely make your pleasure a priority, when you can take time, make some list, and make the things that light you up and refill your cup, refill your body, refill your soul, refill your, and it isn't just things like taking a bubble bath. It may be things like um reading for 10 minutes. These don't have to be these huge things, but during your day, you have to find things to refill your energy,
Yeah.
because we are energy. And when you have a battery and you put it on and it goes, it's going to go to the point where it's not charged anymore. And that's what we have to do. And pleasureful activities, pleasureful um, things will create a recharge in our battery and a recharge in our soul.
Yeah. How often do you think someone would need to have those little self-care to like give them joy and pleasure? How often do you think someone would need that? Is that daily, weekly, monthly?
I say like 4 or 5 times a day.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to take long. Like, I see you sipping your tea.
Hmm.
Tea can be just, but are you mindfully sipping your tea?
Yeah.
Are you taking a break before you go to your next activity? Or are you just running, running, running? Are you setting your phone aside? Are you turning the ringer off? Are you just checking in with your body?
Yeah.
Breathing. Where are my shoulders up to here? Well, most of the time we're not even connected to our body to notice that our shoulders are up here. But if you take a few exhaling breaths, it doesn't take long to take a
Yeah.
conscious breath to go,
Yeah.
so can it be to doodle for 5 minutes? What are some of the things? Do you like getting your fingers in the dirt? Do you like cooking? Go in and make something conscious. Bring all of your awareness into your body. And that could be something simple as smelling your favorite herb or your favorite tea but it's being mindful and being in the present moment. That brings us into our body. That brings us into pleasure. Pleasure is a felt sense. It's not something that pleasure is not just in the bedroom. It's not just something when you go on vacation or a bubble bath. It's pleasure truly is when you're consciously aware, you're in your body and you're feeling and you're awakening up this present moment.
Yeah. Those are some really good points. Why do you think pleasure has become this dirty word that we're not allowed to use?
Because that keeps us disempowered, that keeps us really conditioned to be out of our bodies and out of our power.
Yeah.
When we, especially as women are feelers, and we are, when we're birthing, what do what happens, your creation, you're in creating a living being, but our sexual energy along with our pleasure is all creative energy. It's all what we birth ideas into the world, how we change. And if we're out of that, if we're in just this doing mode and we're go, 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 we're good little worker bees, we're good little soldiers where we're making the powers that be all the money, all the riches, all that, and we're not fully into our power.
Yeah.
So when we come back into it, then we can create anything.
Yeah. It's so true. And it's so hard to do, right?
No, don't affirm that. Stop.
It's true.
It's really not hard.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental truth, and it's a fundamental like law of the universe. And you birthed a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did you have to do everything to make all those cells change? You're a lactation consultant. What all do you have to do to make that milk?
Yeah.
Not hard. It's just we make it hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
it is. It's just that the taking the time to check in with your body and slowing down and being mindful of the things that you're doing throughout the day. Because we live in such a distracted world, right? And we're so focused on doing multiple things that we have to focus on the next thing as well, or else we start dropping all the balls. So,
well, that was key what you just said
yeah.
is, and what I like to tell people is, who won the race, the rabbit or the hare?
Hmm.
Slowing down is the new fast.
Yeah.
Because if you're off to the next thing and you're not fully present and you're just doing and going and you're not mindful, you miss half of what could have been or happened. And most of it is when how we create things is from the inside out. It's not by our doing. Let me first point that out, that it is an inside job. And for everything, like your computer, your phone, the chair that you sat in, first was somebody's idea and concept. And that doesn't come from doing, it comes from the being state.
Yes.
So, feminine state, the moon cycles, the all of that is more the being state. So, we need to slow down.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where we get into that burnout and there's no creativity, right? Do
For
you
sure.
think our babies are feeling us when we feel burnout? Do you think they recognize the burnout?
It's not even that they recognize it, there's no separation from a mom and her baby. The energy is all in of the same thing.
Yeah.
And when you are frazzled, stressed, when you are going a million miles an hour, they feel it all. They feel the tension, they feel the stress. And if you want to have a very calm, centered, you know, relaxed baby that can be open to learning, and the first and foremost thing, they don't care about the next um, house or the next car. They want your love and attention, and that's the best thing you can give them. And what do you have to do that? You have to be present, you have to be with them.
Mm.
So the burnout happens by the fast pace. It doesn't happen if you're, you know, connected and slowing down and loving and holding them. And I used to remember that, you know, I wanted to give my child everything. Only thing they wanted was my time.
Yeah.
Only thing they wanted was the box that we could play in and the kitchen utensils. You know,
Yeah.
it's not about um, what you can give them as far as material outside things. They want to feel their mom's love.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing you can give them. And when you're in burnout, you have nothing to give.
Yeah.
So fill your cup up, fill your soul up, fill your body, relax so that your children can be relaxed. Because let me tell you, we're in an epidemic time of child suicide, of suicide in the country. And the one prevention that can stop your children from going down the path of addiction and is love.
Yeah.
Just slow down and give them lots of love.
Yeah. It's something that's so needed, you know, and you always feel so divided. And yet, if you just take a pause and just look them in the eyes and be fully present with them, as hard as it feels at times, yeah, it's so incredibly necessary. Yeah. So, what does pleasure have to do with creating the life that you actually want?
One I alluded to a little while ago is it's pleasure is a felt sense. And if you are just thinking about like the car or the house or the stuff, and I was married to when my first husband, he would create something, but then he was never fulfilled by it. So the big houses, the big cars, the, you know, the motorhomes, the boats, and then he was off to the next thing because he needed that dopamine hit and of creating the next thing. And really, pleasure's a felt sense. Come into your body, feel what's around you, feel your home, feel your kids, you know. And if you want, and I use the word orgasmic life. Most people, you know, they get drawn to that because truly it's when you are fully present, when you feel alive, when you feel like the things in your world are enough and you're not striving to get to something else or to make something else, but you're fully happy and content with where you are.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that few of us, you know, a few people get to that level of contentment. And pleasure is how you get there. You've got to make your pleasure a priority.
Yeah, that's so true because there's times where we're just waiting and waiting for the next stage because maybe they're just dying to get out of the newborn stage or the toddler years, you know, like once I get out of this stage, then I will be able to design the life that I want or this will finally happen. I'll finally be able to do this one thing for myself. And if you instead focus on those little things, like you said, of just creating pleasure in your life throughout the day, you can be more content with your life rather than just putting all of that on hold, getting in total burnout and wasting those years waiting for the someday that might never be there, right?
Yeah, because I waited, I can get tearful
Yeah.
because I waited for those days. And while everybody was planning their kids going to college and graduating high school and going to college, my daughter ended up in the hospital. And I would say, gosh, when you get better, I'll get my life back.
Yeah.
And when you get to school, when you get to wherever, this is what that does. And I just want to caution all of you on it, is it puts the burden and the guilt on your kids
Yeah.
when truly they didn't do anything but be born, you know. and they're trying to live and be, these little carefree, wonderful kids that just want to play. And when we put that burden on them, that their our misery and our burnout is their response, that it's what they've caused for us. I don't know if you truly think of it that way when it's happening, but let me tell you, being on the other side of it and going through it and going through the burnout and going through now, when my daughter was well enough, because she's been to hospice and back at 23, and when she was better, and we did a horse camp for other people, for
Mhm.
other children, and they were coming from a really rich area, and we were on the farm, and we were hosting this camp for young girls, 11, 12. And the parents came and they're like, oh, well, we thought this was going to be this wonderful, big, lush camp. And I'm like, let me tell you, I'm putting on this camp for my daughter, not for your kids. My daughter is the one who wants this camp. And every day that she's alive is a day to celebrate. So I know that's heavy for everybody, but truly, what is it that life is all about? It's about love and loving your kids. And it's about celebrating the here and right now, not about what you'll get later. It's
Yeah.
about what can you feel in that connection with them now.
Yeah. That really puts it in perspective when you have that stressful time. That'd be really hard.
And
Um,
how can you handle that stressful time, right?
right. Which is really um, challenging when, because as a mom, you want to make everything better. And there are times when you just can't, there's nothing you can do. And you just want this time to just be done. You just want to be to the next step to then I'll be
And
able to.
that's time to slow down and just embrace it.
Yeah.
That's time to slow down and just know that, this is here, this is now, and eventually, times will change. But for right now, what can I do to take care of myself, take care of my kids, and just be? I mean, people get faced with divorce, they get faced with job changes, or where they lose their house, or it's how are you going to be and how are you going to react in the adversity rather than when things are good.
Yeah. And typically, too, when you are waiting for the next stage, there's always going to be something then that's holding you back, right? What is next? Like, there's always,
Live in the now, not what's next. Or,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it's so important. Live today.
yeah, because the time goes by so fast, and those littles are not so little anymore. I feel like I blink.
Treasure each moment.
Yeah,
Treasure it. Each stage has magic and miracles, and each stage is just so beautiful because you'll look back and you'll go, oh my gosh, I missed,
yeah,
breastfeeding, or I missed, when they were at preschool, or, you know,
yeah.
yeah, each stage is wonderful.
It really is. So, as moms, sometimes we really feel selfish taking time for ourselves, when we are so needed all the time for our littles. Like, how can we stop with that guilt and make self care a priority?
It has to become um, guilt is a vicious thing. It's very vicious, and we've been conditioned and taught that everybody else matters but ourselves. And truly, when you can begin loving yourself, then you have more to love everyone else. So, guilt aside has to be reprogrammed. We have to, like, begin to take that voice and just set it aside and go, okay, I'll get back to you later. But for right now, I'm going to take care of me, and I'm going to love me, because if you can't love yourself, then you don't have enough to love everyone else. You don't have the energy, the time, the the bottom line, the things to the focus, clear thinking, or the love to give to your kids, your family. So love yourself first,
Yeah.
and just you have to set that guilt aside.
Yeah. I think also, like you were saying, making it something, it doesn't have to be this big thing you were saying earlier, right? Where it seems sometimes impossible to be like, I'm going to go out of the house and go do a workout class or do whatever, like a girls' night. And sometimes it's just not possible. But taking that moment, like you were saying, and just being present and enjoying those small things. Yeah. Breathing, focusing on that can make a difference.
Sometimes it's set like in the morning. This morning I um did a 7-minute meditation. Maybe you can't go to the yoga class, or maybe there isn't time to do, but there is time to stop, shut off your mind, and just be in your body. And it can be that you just smell, some fresh mint,
Yeah.
or and you're just present. And you can set alarms on your phone. I have like reminders that say, it's time to do your morning practice. And
Oh,
then, you could set an alarm for a little bit later, about the time that you're sitting in line picking the kids up from school, just to focus on your body and breathing and taking 5 deep breaths.
mhm.
It can be simple, but you've got to refuel.
Yeah, I love that tip too on having those external reminders, right, with the alarm, because sometimes we do get so busy and we're so focused on what to do next. It is so hard to remind myself, like, hey, like, oh yeah, I haven't checked in with my body all day today, And so if you had that alarm, some kind of reminder, it would be way better. Like that's way easier.
Yeah, and change them up, because if you have something on the dashboard of the car, or you have something on the refrigerator, in time you're just going to overlook it.
Yeah.
So change the color of it. Take a post-it note and have it be bright pink, but then next week make it yellow, and change up your music that you listen to. Put on something soothing, but then next time put on something really rockin', and fun and funky, that you can move your body even for 5 minutes. Doing a quick, energizing
Yeah.
dance can be something that lifts you back up.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can get used to the reminders and just not even see it. It just becomes background.
Right, right. Not see it, not hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so change it up.
that's a good tip. So, how long does this prolonged stress affect women and even their libido? And why is it important for us to make pleasure such a priority?
Stress over time really, and people think libido is just your sex drive. Libido is truly your willpower. It's your own innate ability to put things into action. So when we do have stressed over time, it is like taking I kind of use the um, putting a pot on the stove. And over time, if you turn on the pot, you have a tea kettle. And over time, that fire just keeps getting a little higher and higher. Then eventually it's going to whistle, right?
Yeah.
Same thing is if you put a pot on the stove and you put a lobster in it, or you take and put a frog in it, over time, if you just turn it up, the lobster doesn't know and it doesn't jump out, or the frog doesn't jump out. But if you took and put it in a scalding pot, it would jump right out.
Yeah.
We do that. Stress happens over time. And when it happens over time, we're not even aware of it. And then all of a sudden, what happens is you have no sex drive. You have no energy to do the things you want to do. Your focus and clarity is like you can't even think straight. I don't know about you, but I've hit those times where it's like, where am I coming or am I going? What am I, is it morning or is it night? And right.
Yeah.
And so it happens like this slow process over time that will just take you down. And so when we make pleasure a priority, we're refueling, we're slowing down, we're feeling our body, and we're checking in, and we're going, oh my gosh, I feel tight in my neck right
Mhm.
now. I wonder if I could put some breath in and change that. Everything is about energy. And
Yeah.
how are you fueling, or are you contracting and depleting, or are you expanding and energizing and giving to yourself?
Yeah.
So be mindful.
Yeah. That's so true. What do you think the benefits are of reducing that stress and making a pleasure a priority?
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's better sex life. It's better connection to your family and your kids and your those that you love. You have more love to give. You're more energized. You feel alive and like you can take on the world. There's just the benefits. Creation, you can create new projects and new, you have the desire to, your health is renewed, and your health is not in moving towards disease, it's moving towards renewed energy all the time. We talk about renewable energy as far as in the world, but we need renewed energy practices
Yeah.
to renew our own energy within our body. And pleasure is the key.
Yeah.
Pleasure and play. When we're pleasure, and I like to say pleasure and play are the feminine way,
Hmm.
because those are the really ways that we can, without a lot of effort, make a huge difference in our life. And if you're creating today, say you want to create a vacation, right? If you're coming from a very depleted, where you don't have any energy, you are in burnout, and you go and create a vacation, it's going to be a train wreck, because things aren't going to line up. Things aren't, you're going to be like in the airport, and every plane is going to be, it's serious.
Yeah.
And have you ever had one of those vacations? It's like, oh my gosh. But when you take time and you make sure how you're feeling, how you're, if you're replenished, and then you go create something, you're creating from a much higher vibration, then things will go smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll come to you quicker. It's like magic.
Yeah. So true. So, what is a pleasure power up?
Pleasure power up is when you can take those 5 minutes,
Yeah.
take those 30 seconds, and give it focused attention to rejuvenate and regenerate your being. So, what would be something you could do right now, Lacey, that would really give you a power up? What would be something that is um, fully in your pleasure zone, that you could do right now?
Hmm. Those are hard when you're like, I think when you're, especially with somebody that's a stay-at-home mom, to like have those things come to mind, right? Because when you work in the space that you're in, I think there's like so much responsibility stuck to you. And so it's all you see is the things that need to be done rather than what can you do for yourself, you know? So tell us more about what you teach and where we can find you.
Wow. So you saw a little bit about what I teach. So a lot about women's empowerment, and a lot about, I'm a muse, and with the muse, really sparking new innovation and ideas and creativity. And I work a lot with corporate leaders. Um, C-suite, and helping to change the world by changing our ideas and changing, bringing in more of the unknown into the known. But I do have a practice, a 2 courses for women. One's called Passport to Pleasure. It's an 8-week. It's really getting into being able to get into your body, get into being able to do these pleasure practices and not feeling guilty to be able to create the life you love. And the other one is a creativity practice. It's a 2-hour practice where we can really just invoke the power of the muse and bring in something, in a fun, playful way by going around our house and gathering up things and then coming and seeing what wants to be birthed into. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So those are 2 things that might help your girls, your moms, your beautiful moms to make better milk and have their milk be just so nourishing for their babies.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate hearing all that you have to say. And thank you, everyone.
It was fun.
Listening. Yeah, it was, right?
It was fun for me.
Good. And thank you, everyone listening. I will see you guys next week on the Early Motherhood Guide podcast.